All right, so chapter 21 is our last chapter in this semester. It is about the data mining, right? So I believe most of you have already heard about data mining for several times, but what really does the data mining mean, right? So for this chapter, I will divide into three parts. The first part will be just a general introduction about what is real data mining. All right, so in the end, the next two parts will give you two kind of famous methods for the data mining. All right, and the first example will be the decision tree, and the second example will be the market basket analysis, which is related with the probability. All right, okay, so let's do the first part, introduction. Right, so here I made two videos, not by me. It's a kind of a just someone talk about what is the big data, right? So what happened to big data if you cannot use it well, right? So I will suggest you to watch these two videos, right? You will find that the big data is not the thing that you think it is very easy to handle, right? If you didn't handle well, you will have the opposite conclusion. You may have problem with your data analysis, right? Your data analysis will not be very accurate and just make you have a wrong decision, right? So big data is a very dangerous thing that you need to deal with it very carefully, right? So this is about the two videos that if you click these two links, you can watch it if you have any free time, lie on the bed, right? So just watch it for fun. All right, okay. So what is the real big data, right? So big data, it doesn't mean that it should be very big, right? So big data means it is the raw facts of the world, right? So that means first it is the raw data, right? So you can collect the data, you can do the experiment. For all these kind of raw data, we just call it is big data because we may have different variables, right? And then, for example, our housing price, right? So you will have many variables, right? And then you will have a big data. So first, big data is about the raw facts. All right. And then based on the big data, you need to do data mining. All right, so what is data mining? So here, the data mining is just to find the solutions to improve the world by finding useful information from the big data. So first, I don't know whether I need it, but this is all the information I collect from, right? So I don't know whether the number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms, the first floor square feet, right, and second floor square feet, number of fair works, right? So all of these I can collect from the house, but I don't know whether it is useful for my prediction, right? So data mining is just the process to find these useful information from the raw data. Right, so here I just give you three examples. The first example, if you purchase anything online, for example, you purchase a laptop online, right? And then you will generate at least these records, right? The length of time on site, the item you viewed, the items you purchased, the size, color, and so on, right? The methods of your purchase, the promotions used, right? Credit card information, credit verification, something shipping information. So whenever you do a purchase online, at least these records will be used as some raw data if anyone want to make analysis with it. Right, so for this kind of data, we call it is transactional data, because this data is generated from your transactions. All right, so if you purchase anything, you produce a data, and then this data is called the transactional data. Right. Example 2. If you own a house, then your house will generate at least the following records, right? So these ones we have already talked about, right? So you have another set of big data. Maybe this data only contains 10 houses, but we still call it is big data because you may have many variables will affect the house price, right? Okay. Number 3 example, whenever you report an accident to the police, you generate the following records: your name, driver's license information, right? Time of accident, location of it, insurance company, and the ID number, right? So all of these ones are the sources of big data. All right. Okay, so here we'll introduce these 3 types of the big data. The first type we have already talked about. It is the transactional data. So it's about the data obtained or recorded during transactions when you purchase anything. Right, and then another type of big data we call it is demographic data. Right, most of the time we just call it is individual data. Right, so it's just for your personal information, right? So if you use a Kroger card, right, and you will fill in your information when you get the Kroger card application, or if you didn't fill in, whenever you use it, the store will generate the report, right? So this is about the individual data. It is about one person. All right, and then another one is about the regional data. It is most of the time it is about the census data, right? So for example, the yearly income of United States citizens, right? And most of the time, this kind of data can be purchased from companies. Right, so for this kind of company, they just collect the data and then just make it organized so that whatever information you have, I can purchase from them. All right, okay, so we have 3 kind of data. And then next, we'll talk about what is the data mining. Right, so we have already heard about this just the data mining, just like a secret field that you never touched. You don't know whether it is about, right? What does it about? And it looks like a high technology, right? But it is not. Right, so what is data mining? The data mining is a process that uses a variety of data analysis tools to discover the patterns, the relationships in data to help build useful models and predictions. It helps the next step about the decision making. Right, so actually we have already done this for the whole semester. Right, so for the whole semester, we are doing the data mining. All right, so actually, let's look at this picture. We have the raw data at the first, right? So we just collected from the observations. We don't know anything about it. I just collected the raw data. All right, and then based on the raw data, we kind of get some basic information of the data. In this process, we will call the process to get the descriptive analytics. So what does that mean? So for example, if you have a data, then you can get the mean of it. You can get the standard deviation of it, right? You can get the range of it, right? So all of these is just about the useful information. It's kind of get information about the raw data, but it will not help you to make any decision, right? So it just kind of describe this raw data. So this process will be called the descriptive analytics. All right. So most of the time we just call it is if summary. That's another M here. Right, so for this process, for the first process, you are getting the summary statistics. You get a summary about your raw data, right? But next step is the data mining, right? So we say when you are getting the summary statistics, you are not doing the data mining. You just get a summary of it. It will not help you with the decision making. All right, okay, so based on the summary statistics, you will get the data mining process to get some useful knowledge of the raw data. All right, so what does that mean? In our first part, we say we can do a hypothesis test about the raw data, right? So based on the sample means, we can compare two populations, right? We can say whether the population mean is larger than a single number, right? So this is all we did before, right? Before exam 1, right? And or we can get the confidence interval about the population mean, right? We can do the regression, right? So we can generate a model, either simple model or multiple regression model. So for time series, we can get the estimated value, right? So that we can make the predictions, right? We can generate a model based on the time series to get the seasonal components, something like that, right? So we have a advanced knowledge about the raw data. And these useful knowledge will help us to make the decision for the last step. All right, okay, so for this process will be the data mining. And then after you do the data mining, you get some useful knowledge about the raw data so that you can make your decision. Right, so actually what we did for exam 1, exam 2, we actually are doing both of these two steps, right? So we stated the hypothesis, right? And then we calculate the test statistics so that we find the p-value. Then based on the p-value, we have the conclusion for the statistical conclusion, right? And then why I ask you to interpret your conclusion with the real words, that means you are making this process based on the different situation. You need to know how to make the business marketing analytics to make the decision. All right, okay, so actually it is not a secret thing, right? So it is just what we did for the whole semester, right? All right, so here I just listed the different examples. You can look through them. I will not just read by one. It's just a kind of bored, right? But I want you to read one by one to understand more about what is the data mining, what will be what kind of questions will be related with the data mining, right? So here, I just ask you to remember one thing. We say summarizing the large data is not data mining, right? So this is very important. If anyone asks you, can you do the data mining? Actually, your answer should be yes. But if you don't know how to make the hypothesis test, confidence interval, making the regressions, and in the future you do other regressions or for different modeling methods. But if you only know how to do the summary statistics, you only know how to get the mean, how to get the standard deviation, how to get the range, something like that, you cannot do the data mining job. All right, so we say the summary of getting the summary of statistics is not the process of data mining. All right, data mining is the second step after you get the summary statistics. All right, so here I have a organic data for a supermarket. Right, so it says a supermarket is offering a new line of organic products. The supermarket's management wants to determine which customers are likely to purchase these products. The supermarket has a customer loyalty program, right? As an initial buyer incentive plan, the supermarkets provides the coupons for the organic products to all of the loyalty program participants and collect the data that includes whether these customers purchase any of the organic products, right? So actually what I care about is about this data, right? So actually let's look at this data. I have these 13 variables. All right, and then I have for each variable I have 10,000 observations of purchase and demographic data. All right, then you will have what? You have this variable, the age, the cluster group, gender, region, TV, rank, class, spend, time, target by, target amount. All right, so actually we totally have 13 variables, but if you look at the second column, most of them are inputs. You have the rejected and the target, right? So actually what does the rejected mean? That means when you do the regression, this variable is not significant, it is rejected, right? So this one is not, should not include in our data because what? Because actually if you look at the name of the variable, these two are repeated, right? So you don't need to include two similar or the same variables into your regression, right? So this variable will be crossed out, right? So this one will be not included in my analysis. All right, and then we say that this supermarket is more care about how many they will buy, how much they will buy the products, right? So actually these two, the target buy and target amount, will be your response variables, right? So for this one, the target buy, if you look at the type of the data, it is binary. It says the organic purchased, yes, will be 1, 0 will be no. All right, the other one will be the amount. It will be the continuous variable, it will be just the number of organic products purchased. Right, so actually we have two kind of response variables. All right, and then here we'll have, based on this kind of data, we will have two kind of analytics. Right, the first one will be called the descriptive analysis. This descriptive analysis is just based on the raw data. For example, I ask, what is the proportion of females 50 years and older who purchase the organic products from this store? All right, so about this kind of analytics, do you need to set a model to answer this question? All right, so what was my question again? Okay. Do you need to do the modeling thing to answer this question? Of course not, right? So you just calculate based on this data what is the proportion of females who are 50 years and older, then that's done, right? It will be answered this question. So for this kind of question, we just what you did will be just a descriptive analytics, right? So it's just about the summary statistics. And then what if you want to do the predictive analytics? Then your question may be make a prediction on the sales of organic products for a target group of customers, right? And then which customers from our larger database are most likely to purchase the organic products, right? So for this kind of questions, you need to generate a model to make the predictions, right? And then for this kind, it will be called the data mining. For answer this kind of question, you don't need to do the data mining. What you need to do is just do a summary statistics table. All right, okay. So to answer the second question, it's going to require a model to obtain the prediction, right? Okay. Then we'll have two kinds of modeling, right? The first kind of modeling is called explanatory modeling, and second kind of modeling will be called predictive modeling. So both of these two are based on the modeling methods, but for different modeling methods. The modeling method is not just for regression. We have many kinds of modeling methods for prediction. All right, okay, so we have already learned in the time series, right? We have the smoothing method that you don't need to do the regression thing, and then you have the regression method that you can generate a model, right? So both of these two modeling methods, you can provide the predictions. But for different kind of modeling methods, you have two objectives, right? The first one is more focused on the explaining what does this model mean. It will be more focused on interpreting the coefficients, right? So that you can performing the hypothesis test, you can do the goodness of fit test, and you can understand if the x increase by 1, y will increase or decrease by what amount, right? So this is the explanatory modeling. The objective is not to make the prediction. Our objective to make this model is to understand what's going on, right? Another kind of modeling method is the predictive modeling method. For this kind of modeling method, we'll be more focused on making the predictions, like our simple regression, multiple regression will be the predictive modeling. All right, okay. So what we have already talked about is all about the introduction level, right? So as long as you understand this material, you understand what is explanatory modeling, what is the predictive modeling, that will be fine. All right, I will not ask you to give me an example. I will not ask you to remember the definitions, right? So as long as in the future, if anyone asks you what is the difference between these two, you can find what's the difference. You can talk a little bit, right? That will be enough for this course. All right, so let's continue. And then for the prediction modeling, right? So we need to split our data into two sets, right? So this is the thing you need to be careful about. Right, so when we do the regression, we always need to separate our raw data into two parts. The first part will be the training set. The second part is the validation set, right? So what's the difference between these two? We say the training data is to construct the model, right? So actually what we did before is all about the training data. So with the training data, we generate the model. And then for the validation set, validation data, we use it to validate the generated model. We want to use this validation data to check whether the model you generated is good or not. Remember when we talk about the simple regression, right? So we have the validation MSE. We chose 5 observations as our validation set. Remember that? So for any regression or prediction modeling methods, we first will have a raw data, and then we need to divide this raw data into two parts. Right, the first part will be called the training data. The second part will be called the validation set. All right, so what's the proportion for the training data and the validation data? Or we say how much data should be included in each data set. So normally we will say the training data should be larger than the validation set, right? And normally we set that the training data has double size of the validation set. Because what? Because first we need enough observations included in our data to generate a accurate model. All right, and then we want to use a smaller amount to check whether our model is good enough. All right, okay, so this is the training data and validation data. All right, so we'll talk about how we do it in JUMP later. All right, okay, and for the predictive modeling methods, we say we're only interested in predicting the individual observations, right? So this is our goal for the predicting methods. All right, so for the next next video, we'll have another a example, right? So it will be called the decision trees, right? So this example will be another kind of prediction methods, or that also can help you with the decision making. It will not be a regression, but it will draw you the tree so that you can follow the tree from the beginning to the end to find the predictions. All right, so we'll talk about this in the next video, and I hope you don't get too confused about this part, because we have limited time. We cannot go too deep about this part. As long as you get a general idea about what is data mining, right? It is not summary statistics. It is the next step of the summary statistics. It helps us to make the decisions, right? So when you generate the model or whatever the modeling methods, you need to separate them into two parts. One is called the training data, that we use it to generate our model, and then we have another part which is the validation set, right? We use this validation set to check whether our model is good or not. right? So if you understand these ones, I think it would be good to complete the most questions in your MyStatLab homework. All right, so next video we'll talk about the decision tree. All right, so see you in the next video.